This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Welcome back, everybody. Our next guest is truly amazing. I don't say that often, and especially for people that do what she does. I am a skeptic. She is a psychic medium. She has proven to me that she's got the goods. She's got the gift. She's got the skills. Whatever you want to call what she's got, she's told me things that nobody has known, and it's given me clarity every single time. And today, we're going to talk about how to spot a phony when it comes to a psychic, because unfortunately these people are out there, and it makes those with the ability of intuition challenging to do their work to help us have sometimes closure, clarity, and more. She's our professional of the year. Connie Fusella is back with us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks for being back here. I am so transparent. Even before we started this segment, I asked you a question about something that transpired in my life this week and last week. It's an ongoing thing. And you told me something that I never even realized. It's almost as if you're a psychic therapist.
Well, sometimes people view it that way. Absolutely.
Seriously,
Yeah.
because what you do, unlike many, is you'll provide information that could come from the other side, but then you also provide insight on what to do with that information to change your life and or move your life forward, which I find amazing. Just I don't think you know what you got going on there in terms of the insight and the psychic thing happening. But thank you for being okay to talk about this, spotting a quote unquote phony when it comes to a psychic. I don't even know where to begin with this.
Yeah, so it's interesting, and just to piggyback on what you said, more and more mental health professionals, hypnotherapists, grief therapists are actually referring to psychic mediums for just the reason that you said, kind of, tapping into your inner self, your higher consciousness to give people clarity, because a lot of the answers are already within you, right? It just kind of takes that, clarity, kind of refocusing to say, yeah, you're right. And sometimes you just need that other voice to tell you and lead you in the right direction. So, it is a common thing, but unfortunately, the few pay the price for the many, meaning the few, qualified mediums pay the price for the many, many frauds that are out there. I've experienced them firsthand, way back, when I started, looking into this. And it is unfortunate because anyone that seeks out a psychic or a medium is doing so because they have an issue. They have a problem that needs resolved. They need clarity. They need guidance. They need direction. And so it's unfortunate that you have these fraudsters, preying on those people when they're vulnerable. There's a few things that really are the telltale signs when spotting someone that's not authentic. And the first one is, and boy, I remember this because this happened to me, is when you go to, a psychic or a medium, and right off the bat, they come out with negative information about you. Like there's negative energy around you. People are jealous of you. There's this dark cloud over you. And, you may be asking about relationships because, you've had bad luck with relationships. And then they're going to tell you there's a curse on you, and give me more money, and I'll take the curse off of you. This is what people do. It's true. It's unfortunate. It happened to me, but it's true. Yeah.
The whole give me more money and I'll do something like right away. Like you can't run fast enough away from that person who is saying that. Like it's like,
Absolutely.
It's horrible. It's dirty that anybody.
It is.
But to your point, Connie, they know they got you. because you're vulnerable, because
Right,
you're probably looking for answers,
right.
connection, all of that. So they got you in a, at the moment in a good spot.
Yeah, and they'll throw in something, quirky, like some sort of, spiritual ritual or something like, give me this money, I'll take the curse off you, go home, recite this prayer, light a white candle, do this. So it makes you think like, oh yeah, if I go through all of this, everything's going to be, great in my life. And it's really, it's sad. The other thing too is that people will really take advantage again of somebody that is vulnerable. And one of the things that they'll do is solicit information from you unknowingly. So I always tell people that, reach out to me. I don't need to know anything really but your first name. Okay. And you'd be surprised, like people will reach out to me and say, via email and say, oh, I want to make an appointment with you. I lost my son. He died in a motorcycle crash. We miss
Mm,
Johnny. His brother and sister are upset, blah, 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 blah. And now I have all this information. Okay. And so I reach back out to that person and I let them know when you reach out to a medium, you should not disclose anything,
yep.
because if they are not authentic, they're going to use that. Okay. Like for instance, you have someone come in front of you and let's say they have a husband with them, right? A wife comes with her husband and the medium will make small talk. Okay, and that's something I don't do for this reason. I don't want to know anything about you, but they'll make small talk and the person will say, yeah, we just got married last year, blah 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 blah. And then that they've sent an email that they lost their mother. So then the medium goes in to say, oh, I have your mom here. She said your wedding was beautiful. She was right there with you, right? Knowing they got married after the mother passed. So it's so easy if you don't realize, the cold, signs, your body language.
Okay, let's go there. You said the word
Y-
cold, and I wanted to bring that
yes.
up, and it's almost as if you're reading my mind. There's a thing that the skeptics use, and they call it cold reading, which, as I understand
Absolutely.
it, it's when the psychic medium is looking at your face and picking up on cues. As the psychic says something, then your eyes open, maybe open up a little bit
Right.
more, and then they got you, and they're going to
Right.
roll on that. There
Yeah.
are some that can and will do that. You, I just want to get this out of the way now. When you did a reading for me, it's on the phone. You're not
Right.
looking at me. We weren't doing a Zoom.
Right.
And in my experience in working with people like you, and I've worked with a lot of psychics. I'm not a psychic connoisseur. It just happened that way. I've marketed them, boosted careers, things like that. I've had them in studio and we've answered the phone, and there's multiple phone lines and there are
Right.
thousands of people are trying to get through. There's no blanket way that a psychic could have like planted a call. No, I'm watching it in
Right.
real time. It's live on the air. So the cold reading thing, I guess it does exist. But again, I
Hmm.
wanted people to know that when you read me and pulled this stuff out, which is pretty amazing, nobody
Right.
would have known, and you
Yeah.
offered a lot of insight. We were on the phone. We didn't see each other.
Right. That's actually my favorite way to do it. Although I
Hmm,
enjoy, seeing people and interacting, I
sure.
just feel like that's the most authentic way to do a reading because, we discussed this is all energy, right? All I need to do is hear your voice, feel your energy. So seeing somebody is not and should not be a requirement, for, a psychic or a medium reading. And that cold reading is I feel it's very common. And you'll say something like, oh, I have, a younger male there, and the person looks confused, and then the medium will say, wait a minute, no, it's a female. And then the person's like, yes, you know what I mean? They'll self-correct because they'll just watch
Right.
expressions and then kind of, maneuver around that. So, that's something to look out for. I feel that, word of mouth, firsthand experience from someone that you trust that maybe has been to a psychic or a medium is really the best, way to know that you're with somebody authentic. And also maybe looking for certified mediums.
Mm.
As I mentioned, I'm actually double certified by the Forever Family Foundation, which was featured on the Netflix series Surviving Death. I think of one of 30 in the world certified by them. And then I'm also with the Helping Parents Heal organization, those for those that specifically have lost children. And there's about 50 or so certified mediums. So those are good places to go to look for people that have been vetted and tested and tried and true.
I
But
didn't
you
even
know,
know that existed until you brought it to my attention. I had no idea
oh,
that there's a way that psychics can get certified. Going to throw the other thing in here too. You get what you pay for. So if you're driving down the street and you see the neon sign, psychic and a crystal ball and,
right,
$20 reading,
$10,
yeah,
right,
take that with a grain of salt. There's sometimes where, you're
right,
walking through the fair and, somebody's there, maybe for fun. Let's just see what, approach it from a different standpoint. But again, that
right,
they probably not going to be legit. And,
right.
tarot cards, maybe a little bit different. Maybe somebody can pull cards and interpret them, and it's a, $20 reading, whatever. Maybe that's for entertainment purposes. But if you want the real connection, it's not
Yeah.
probably not going to be that. Just wanted to say that.
Right. Absolutely. And the other thing too is sometimes there's this illusion out there that, oh, I'm calling this medium that, you may have found them, I don't know, somewhere on the internet, and you call and they say, oh, there's a 6 month waiting list, a year waiting list, or what have you. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Sometimes that's absolutely true. Okay. But what I have learned, and this actually came as a bit of a surprise to me, speaking to, a lot of people, um, mediums have different schedules. Okay. Like, for instance, for me, I read every day. I do events almost every weekend. Okay. That's just me. That's how I go. Okay. There are some mediums that maybe read one day a week. Maybe they do 2 to 3 readings a week. So, of course, when they're scheduling, right? Because they do limited readings, they're going to say, oh, I'm booked out 6 months. And it gives the illusion, that, oh, everybody's going to this person. They have this long waiting list. In some cases, it's absolutely true. They're really well-known mediums that have a big waiting list. That's true. But, it's just something to think about because it's not always the case. It has to do with scheduling and how
Sure.
often people read.
And
So,
to your point, I
yeah,
have two friends that are near me here, and they are psychics, and they're good. They've told me stuff too, pretty amazing. They have limited availability. Why? They're getting up there in age. They're slowing down. They want to retire a little bit. They want to
right,
travel.
right.
So it is a limited schedule because there's not a lot of openings on that schedule. Um, and it's the lifestyle that I guess the psychic wants to lead. So yeah.
Right.
What else can you share with us, Connie?
Yeah, the other thing too is this type of work should always be from a place of love and light. Okay. So any messages that come through, again, you're supposed to be here to enlighten somebody, to hopefully have them leave, your session with their hearts lightened, some positivity, some hope. So the messages that come through from people or in the reading should always be for the person's highest good. So if you're sitting, especially with a medium, and they're bringing supposedly forth, one of your loved ones, and they're saying things, let's say, you had a dad that passed tragically in a car accident, and they're saying, things like gruesome things, like, oh, I see this man, he's like covered in blood, and, he looks like he's smashed, and, there was, like kind of, getting into the gory details. Nobody should be ever be doing that, right? Because your client doesn't want to relive this moment that was traumatic in their life.
Mm,
Instead, they should be choosing their words carefully, saying, there's a man here. I know that he passed tragically. I feel like it's from an accident. There's a way to say things that are appropriate. Okay. And again, you have to take in consideration your client's state of mind, their well-being. You don't want to lay this stuff on them. And any person that knows that does mediumship work, especially, knows that people don't look like that on the other side. All right. They're beautiful, they're healthy. So you shouldn't be seeing somebody and describing them coming through in this form that, only Hollywood shows us, right? So it just isn't like that. So, just watch out for the language and the type of information that mediums will bring through.
Will you bring through something that can be potentially negative because it's a message that somebody needs to hear?
Absolutely. So a lot of this is for the healing aspect. Okay. So people don't realize it's not just hearing from your loved ones that passed. It's also about healing past trauma, grief, bringing closure. A lot of the times, I mean, and this is so common that, your loved ones will come through because they want to apologize because they never had the opportunity to do it here. And just think how powerful that is, right? How can somebody that's passed have the opportunity to reach out to their loved one and say, I'm sorry, right? For their actions, for their behavior, for their words, for their absence, whatever it may be. Okay. So that's a really big part of mediumship. And it's also, though, very important for the medium to kind of gauge their client. So, for instance, say there was a case of, very bad abuse in some way, and you're bringing through the person because they do want to apologize, but you can tell your client is like, oh, they may not be ready or open or willing to hear from that person. And you don't want to just force that on them. It's their choice to take that message or not, but they may not be ready. So a lot of the times, if I see, my client, starting to look uncomfortable, or a lot of the times they'll just say, oh, and no offense, I get this a lot with ex-husbands.
Mm.
you know but they'll say that. But if not, you should always ask, I have this person here, I know there's an apology, I know that there was something that was traumatic to you, do you want to hear from them? And if they say no, just thank that person in spirit, and just, I kind of just say, not this time, but try again when they're ready. So
I
yeah.
want to share because I have a picture of a story very briefly here. And the moral of the story is just because the psychic has a name doesn't necessarily mean they're the best. So this goes back about 20 years and had a psychic on my morning show. I'm leaving names out, but it's a name that you probably would know if you knew psychics from then. And
Mhm.
this person is still, practicing. And just like an attitude, like they were visiting a sister down the street, not down the street, but 15 minutes away from the radio station. And like, I need a limo to pick me up, and blah 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 blah. I'm like, really? Like, I'm promoting your book on air, and you're doing some
Right.
reading. So we get the individual in, and there was another psychic that was up and coming, who is a name that you probably know, and wanted to watch this other psychic because the up
Mm.
and coming one was just kind of fresh. The up and coming one is sitting in the corner of the studio. The other psychic is doing readings, and he's trying to pull something out. I believe, that happened to and he wasn't really getting it, like connecting. The
Mhm.
young budding psychic gets up, whispers in his ear, that was the brother-in-law. He was feeding him the information. I'll never
Wow.
forget it. I'm like, and then he got up, and then he got sat back in the corner, and he's just sitting there. Same thing happened again. This, well-known psychic wasn't connecting. This person got up, fed him some more information.
Right.
So my point here is, just because you may see a name doesn't mean they are the best, but you need to vet them out. Like you said, all the things that you
Right.
mentioned, the signs, somebody might not be legit, all of that. Just pay attention to it. That's just be aware. Be aware before
Right.
you make an investment in a psychic and a reading. Anything else that we should be aware of?
And I think, like I said, do your homework, and just take into consideration, like you mentioned, the price. Again, you get what you pay for, but be wary of people that are charging and then adding other charges and other charges and having
Mm,
you come back frequently. Especially if I do a medium reading, I tell the person, give it at least 3 weeks, a month or so. If you want to have another one, let it sit, let it resonate. Okay. I have people that want to, read, every day, every other day. And I say, no, unless
mm.
there's something going on, like for a psychic reading, it's an important legal case and there's constant changes or new things coming in and somebody has like questions, okay. But, it can become an addiction. Let's just say it. Okay. It can become an addiction.
Okay.
And people rely on psychics like for every waking moment of every choice they make. And then it becomes a crutch, and that's not healthy.
That's not
So,
healthy. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. Um, and also I've heard if somebody passes, you need to give it time before you consult with a psychic. Does it matter?
I don't think it matters. For the person that's crossed, okay, in my opinion, okay, so you'd be talking to a medium for someone that's crossed over. It matters for the person getting the reading, because if they are too far in their grief, their vibration is going to be very low. And the connection may not be
Mm,
that great because they're so far in their grief, they're sad, that vibration is low. So they've got to be to the point, and then the medium, and this has happened to me. I've done readings and the person is crying and crying, and I've had to say, I don't feel like this is the right time for you. Let's pause. And why don't you give yourself a couple of weeks and let's do this and revisit, okay? Because
sure.
they're not going to absorb what you're saying. They're
Yep.
not going to retain it. They're just too emotional. So that's very important. The client has to be ready and open to receive.
Absolutely. And I believe, and your thoughts on this, don't have expectations. Many of us, contact a psychic. I want this relative to come through. I need an answer over
Right.
here. Just no expectations. What comes through is what is going to or is should be coming through. And then the side note here is if Connie says something and it's not making a connection, don't get frustrated. It might reveal later. And I call it psychic
Absolutely.
amnesia. You got
Hmm.
a 45-minute session, you're making the investment, you got the psychic on the phone, and now I can't, Uncle Vinny, who, I don't know, Uncle Vinny. Give it some time. It will
Right.
reveal. you just
Absolutely.
file it for the back of your mind, and then it will come to you. But the expectation thing is you can't guarantee that somebody, if they want to connect with their father, there's no guarantee it's going to come through, right?
No, the medium does not control it. So if a medium tells you, yeah, I can connect with your mother, yeah, maybe they can, but they do not control it. That's up to the spirit world. And absolutely, I totally believe the person that comes through is the person that you were meant to hear from. There's a reason for it.
There's a reason
Because
for it.
whether we realize it or not, the spirit world is highly intelligent. It's unbelievable.
The universe knows better than we do, and the universe, I feel,
Absolutely.
is making this happen too. Connie, how do we
Right.
connect with you?
My website is www.meaningfulmessages.info. You can email me at conniepsychicmedium@gmail.com.
Thank you for today, all this insight, and thank you for everything you do. You're amazing. I'm going to say it again. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
And we'll catch up soon. We'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.